Mabilisang topic po ang gagawin natin ngayon. At ang source po natin ay physicscentral.com. Ito po ay pinamagatang Narcissistic Injury. Ano po ba itong Narcissistic Injury? Yun po ang ating pag-uusapan ngayon. At disclaimer po, hindi po ako psychologist, hindi po ako doktor, at ang akin pong binabahagi po sa channel na ito ay based po sa aking research at sa aking experience. So, yun po. Sa mga nagtatong doktor po ako, sinabi ko rin po yun sa aking channel na hindi po ako doktor. So, I hope na maliwanag po. Narcissistic injuries, what they are, and more. Ito po ay medically, lubos-lubosin na natin po para, ito po ay medically reviewed by Matthew Boland. PhD po ito, may siya, and written by Nancy Lovering. Updated po ito noong January 25, 2022. So, it means na bago po yung article na ito. At ang source po natin ay Physics Central. Pwede nyo pong tignan. So, you may have a person in your life who sometimes responds with rage that seems out of proportion to situations. Meron ba nito po sa inyo? Yung reaction po ng narcissist ay hindi naaakma sa kung ano man ang nangyayari. Kumbaga, kunting lang siya, kunting bagay lang na kung mag-react sila ay sobra-sobra po na hindi siya naaayon sa nangyayari. So, yun po ang tinatawag na narcissistic injuries or rage. Nagre-rage po ang mga narcissist kapag po na-i-injured po sila. Their emotion could be reaction to a narcissistic injury. Narcissistic personality disorder or NPD is a complex mental health condition in which a person might crave admiration, have an inflated sense of superiority, and lack empathy. What isn't obvious is the reason behind these behaviors. In some instance, a person with NPD might use these strategies to cover up feelings of vulnerability and low self-worth. They don't know how to manage the emotion, kaya yung alam po lang nila na reaction or response sa lahat ng bagay ay galit. For others, they might appear shy or withdrawn while internally they're boasting about their importance. These behaviors can make it hard to get along with someone living with NPD. In some cases, they can be sensitive and easily wounded by what they perceive to be psychological threats. What are narcissistic injuries? If you know someone living with narcissistic personality disorder, you may have felt hurt by something they've done or said. But narcissistic injury isn't referring to what you've experienced. Iba po yun, wala po yung kinalaman sa inyo. It's all about a narcissist. Instead, a narcissistic injury, aka narcissistic wound, is what some people with NPD might feel when they encounter criticism, loss, or perceived abandonment. Even though they may not show it, they may experience humiliation and rejection. It's their feelings in this situation that may be considered narcissistic injuries. Yun po, nagkasugat yung nila, yung ego. Rather than express vulnerability and reveal how they feel, they may react with defiance, arguments, and even a narcissistic rage attack. Ito po yung nangyari sa akin. Start po ng alas 10 hanggang alas 2 ng madaling araw. Minsan hindi siya talaga natulog. At saka, yung mga pinagsasabi po, hindi kayang sikmurain ng aso. Sobrang ano po, sobrang dumi ng mga pinagsasabi. Eh, syempre, ikaw na wala tayong knowledge na may ganung tao, masashock ka eh. Saan ba nanggagaling yung mga ganun? What narcissistic injuries look like to others? Wounded narcissistic responses often don't match the situation. Yun. They can be direct attacks through verbal or physical aggression or lost confrontational reactions such as walking away during conversation. Kapag ano, hindi cannot you cannot sit with them and have the decent conversation. Hindi po. Kasi feeling nila po lagi is attack. Kaya yun ang ginagawa nila. Any situation where you're the recipient of blame or negativity could be an indication of a narcissistic injury, such as explosive arguments, gaslighting. Yun po, gaslighting. Silent treatment, manipulation, false accusations. Naku, nandun na lahat. Insults, threats, physical violence. It's important to note that there are different types of narcissistic personality, and not everyone with a narcissistic personality will experience narcissistic injury. Naku, parang lahat naman sila na-injured ng konting kibot lang. What causes them? Not much is known about why someone develops NPD. Some expert believes these traits might be in response to specific situations experienced early in life, such as abuse or neglect during childhood. Ito daw po yung cause ng NPD. Unrealistic parental expectations, excessive pampering and praise from parents, narcissistic parent or parents. Naku, namamana talaga po. Naku, Diyos ko po. Not everyone with these experiences will develop NPD, though. Genetics such as family history or personality disorders might contribute to this condition. Minsan nasa genetic po pala. A 2014 study found that some traits of NPD, such as entitlement and grandiosity, could be passed in through genetics. Namamana siya. Brain differences are also involved. People with NPD had less gray matter volume in the left anterior insula according to 2013 study. This is the part of the brain responsible for emotional empathy. Kaya pala wala silang empathy. Iba talaga po yung yung settings ng kanilang brain. Research suggests that parenting practices might also contribute to NPD. If parents place too much emphasis on achievement, children might learn that love is conditional. This could make them vulnerable to narcissistic injuries. What are some examples? Narcissistic injuries are situations that triggers feelings of incompetence or unworthiness. This can include not winning in competition. Nako, yan ang favorite nila kasi it's all about winning. Encountering disagreement in a conversation. An imperfection in something. Having someone not to live up to their standards or expectation. Kaya nga hindi ka pwede maging you cannot be your own self kapag may NPD kang kasama kasi talagang sisirain nila yung yung self-esteem mo. Ayaw nila, feeling nila threat ka sa kanila kapag meron kang self-confidence. Public embarrassment. Being overlooked for promotion at work. Napaka-entitled po kasi ng mga ito, kaya everything, parang feeling po nila kasi yung mundo po na revolve around them. Receiving correction or constructive criticism. Sa healthy na sa taong walang NPD, kapag mayroong nag-correct sa'yo, minsan pasasalamatan mo pa, di ba? Pasasalamatan pa natin, at least na-correct tayo at natuto tayo. Pero sa kanila, naku, kahit yung intention mo is hindi naman constructive nga, di ba? Constructive criticism. Naku, magagalit sila dyan kasi for them, they are perfect at sino ka para i-correct ako? Parang ganun. While anyone can experience an emotional reaction from an intense situation, even mild events can cause narcissistic injuries for someone with NPD. For example, if you offer correct information to someone who's made an error, they may express thanks. In the same scenario, someone with NPD might experience a narcissistic injury from your correction and respond to you with gaslighting or an insult. Tips to avoid them or protect yourself. It's essential to remember narcissistic injuries aren't your fault. Of course not. This is true even if a reaction is in response to something you've said or done. But there are steps you can take to try to diffuse a situation and avoid conflict. Change your mindset. Narcissistic injury and rage are an expression of perceived slight against self-image. For example, a narcissistic injury might occur when you unintentionally criticize the person with NPD because they didn't respond to a situation in a way you think they should have. Iba yung takbo ng utak nila, kaya mahirap po silang anuhin. Reframing your thinking could help you separate yourself from this behavior, which might help you avoid getting drawn into an argument. Learn the escalation strategies. If you find yourself in a situation with someone experiencing a narcissistic injury, you can try to make the situation less volatile. Consider the following strategies. Empathize and validate how they feel. Focus on something you agree with. It's less important who's right and more important not to fight. Rather than listening to correct, try listening to agree. Stay calm. If you keep in mind that narcissistic injury is the response to a perceived threat, it's easy to see why staying calm can help. If you allow yourself to get caught in emotion, your agitated behavior might increase the threat level, which intensifies the narcissistic injury. Respect their personal space. Entering the personal space of someone experiencing narcissistic injury may feel overwhelming to them. Instead, you can help them by moving back and giving them space. Speak less and listen more. If you're faced with someone in the emotional grasp of narcissistic injury, they may not be able to pay attention to what you're saying. The most effective strategy might be to listen rather than speak. If you need to talk, try to keep it simple and short. Create physical distance. Your safety is more important than managing a situation or protecting personal property. If narcissistic rage is creating a dangerous situation, the best course of action might be to remove yourself. If you feel in immediate danger, leave and seek help. Practice self-calming techniques. A deep breathing exercise or mindfulness techniques such as meditation are effective self-calming strategies that can help you manage your emotion in tense situations. Knows when it's time to leave. Nako, ito yung pinaka. Relationships are complex and you may have many compelling reasons to stay connected. But if your safety is regularly at risk and your stress level is often elevated, it might be time to consider leaving the relationship. Naku, ang hirap po nito kapag yung stress level nyo laging na-stimulate. Kasi lagi kayong na parang fight or flight yung yung response ng yung katawan. So lagi kayong stress. Next step, if someone has narcissistic personality disorder, the reactions might seem extreme and out of proportion to you. But because many people with NPD aren't aware of their symptoms, they might not realize they're responding this way or why. Remembering their behavior is because of a mental health condition and not something you've done can help put the situation into perspective. If you're not sure how to respond, consider reaching out to a mental health professionals. They can help you understand how to support someone with NPD. Any situation where you're the recipient of blame or negativity could be an indication of a narcissistic injury, such as explosive arguments, gaslighting, silent treatment, manipulation, false accusation, insults, threats, physical violence. What happens when you cause narcissistic injury? Many people are simply not educated on the concept of the narcissistic wound, also known as the narcissistic injury, and for our wrath beyond comprehension when they offend a person with narcissism. When offended, a typical person might experience hurt feelings or feel insulted or angry. What does narcissistic injury look like? Vulnerability in self-esteem, which makes narcissistic people very sensitive to injury from criticism or defeat. Although they may not show it outwardly, criticism may haunt these individuals and may leave them feeling humiliated, degraded, hollow, and empty. They react with disdain, rage, defiant, counter-attack. Does no contact cause narcissistic injury? Naku, syempre. Narcissistic do not handle rejection and no contact very well. For them, it is considered a narcissistic injury. This is all too common for them when someone points out that they are not the incredible fantasy person that they try to think that they are. What kind of trauma makes a narcissist? Narcissist tends to emerge as psychological defense in response to excessive level of parental criticism, abuse, or neglect in an early life. Narcissistic personalities tend to be formed by emotional injury as a result of overwhelming shame, loss, or deprivation during childhood. Kaya po sa mga nanonood po, ingatan po natin ang ating mga anak. Huwag niyo po silang sasaktan emotionally po kasi yung damage po na iiwanan abang buhay po napapasanan po ng mga anak natin. Kaya tayo bilang hindi po tayo nagkaanak dito para lang pakainin sila, palakihin sila. Kailangan i-guide natin sila kasi kung anong hubog natin sa mga anak natin nung maliit sila, ayan ang magiging parang ilaw nila sa buhay kung paano natin sila pinalaki. Kaya alagaan po natin yung ating mga anak. How do you tell when a narcissist is done with you? For starters, narcissists are finished with you once your narcissistic supply gets stale. When they show more interest in those outside of your relationship as they seek validation, your opinion is becoming less valuable to them. Lagi namang less valuable yung wala ka naman talagang boses kapag narcissistic kasama mo They start to devalue you. They finally ignore you for good. How does narcissists react when they can't control you? Narcissists also gaslight or practice master manipulation, weakening and destabilizing their victims. Finally, they utilize positive and negative emotions or moments to trick others. When a narcissist can't control you, they will likely feel threatened, react with anger, and they might even start threatening you. What is severe narcissistic injury? Narcissistic injury, also known as narcissistic wound or wounded ego, are emotional traumas that overwhelm an individual's defense mechanism and devastate their pride and self-worth. What is narcissistic collapse? Narcissistic collapse happens when someone with narcissistic personality disorder (NPD) can no longer uphold their grandiose, confident image. When this occurs, they feel profoundly threatened. As a result, they tend to become enraged, resulting in impulsive behavior, intense lashing out, or hurting other people. Dito sila nagiging delikado. Do narcissists get over injuries? The narcissistic individuals I have known who have had this kind of injury reaction take a long time to get over it. They hold grudges and want to get back at the person they perceive harmed them. They seek revenge, try to cause problems for their attacker, and seem never to forgive or forget. What happens when you stop talking to a narcissist? Ito random, random question po. If you ignore a narcissist and deny them their source, they may be enraged and try even for your attention. Yes, kaya gagawin niya nilang lahat para makapag-react ka. Kaya guys, stop feeding them. Feed them. Kailangan disturb them kasi pag nag-react ka nako, wala. Lagi lumalakas yan sila. Huwag na mag-react kahit ano pa dyan ang sabihin. Ignore them. Tapos heal yourself. Live your best life. Dun mo matatalo yung mga narcissist. Hindi mo sila matatalo kapag nagsalita ka ng bad or against them. Hindi ka mananalo diyan. Ignore them tapos live your life, heal yourself. Yun ang talagang magpapakulap sa kanila kasi they cannot handle that you are doing good without them. 'Di ba? Sobrang entitled sila. Akala na napaka-powerful. Akala nila gagapang ka pabalik sa kanila. But if you are doing good without them, nako, sampal sa kanila 'yan. Na alam mo yun, tsaka good karma comes to you. Hindi ka nakipaglaban sa kanila kasi hindi ka mananalo po. Hindi tayo mananalo sa mga taong ito kasi wag daw tayo makipagboxing sa mga baboy kasi kapag nakipaglaban ka sa mga baboy, hihilahin kanila doon sa putikan at yun ang gustong-gusto nila kasi magkakaroon ka rin ng putik eh. So, ang tingin nila sa'yo, now we are the same. Nadrag ka nila doon sa kanilang level. So, yun, accomplishment sa kanila yun. So, never do that. Especially in ways that can be toxic or abusive. Ignoring a narcissist will enrage them because of their fragile egos. They feel humiliated and lash out against you to protect themselves. Kailangan nila ma-fix na yung na-crack na ego nila. Kailangan nilang bugbugin ka nila, i-crack ka din para yun ang gamot ng ego. Why do trauma survivors attract narcissists? Napakagandang tanong po nito. Kasi karamihan po tayo ng mga may narcissist na dumating sa buhay. Mayroon tayong trauma na dala-dala natin na hindi natin alam. Para po siyang sugat na unaware tayo. Yung narcissist po sa totoo lang po, hindi mo alam na dala-dala mo. Kasi once na na-encounter mo yung narcissist na yan, magpa-flashback yun yung pain na dala-dala mo, na hindi ka na aware kasi nakalimutan mo na, pero once na ma-encounter mo yung narcissist, mag-refresh ulit yung sugat na yun. It is the best specific feature and emotional support that person with trauma is looking for in their life. Their need for constant reassurance and acceptance in the relationship is exactly what the narcissist is willing to offer, at least for a short period of time. Ito, magandang tanong. What happens when narcissist knows you know? Nako. When narcissist knows you have figured him out, they will hate the fact that you beat them to the discard. After all, that's their job. Once they feel they got everything they can out of you, they move on to the next victim.